The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, welcome everybody. It's the weekly Noyantis user group meeting. Today is the 14th of January 2019. Time flies. Myself and John are here. As always, if you've got any queries or questions, ideas and problems and so on, then please feel free to raise your hand. We'll get the microphones open and we'll cover the particular subjects that you raise. While we're waiting for questions to come in, I'll just open the question box so I can see them actually. But while we're waiting for them, I'll give you a quick update on new developments and so on and so forth. There's no new templates updates this last week. As always, work's been progressing on the Chillcat wrapper. It's getting very close to being a gold release. Before the end of January, I do want that to be a gold release, so all of the base classes will be wrapped, and a few more task classes will be added to it as well, which we're always adding those. So that's progress, and there's other changes going on in the Kojak wrappers as well. One of which I think we've already spoke about in the past, but I was actually going to demonstrate part today on the loading of data into the actual report control. Now it's using DataBind, but I was going to demonstrate how I'd done it in one of these in a particular application, just to give you an idea for your particular systems. It's not saying it's the right way of doing it, the wrong way. There's only really you know that from your own application's design. But I was just going to demonstrate an approach I've used for a new application, which seems pretty good, and you're going to hopefully get better results out of it. Okay. Before we get going on, I know we've got a question come in from via email, and I think Michael's here. And it was really to do with colour themes. So we're going to cover that. But just before we do, if anyone missed the announcement, Clarion Live webinar on Friday, we have sent out a series of surveys. And the idea is we're going to hopefully, potentially, hold a series of training events and or workshops. So and or user groups. So the idea is we have sent the surveys out. They're on there's a link on the news groups. Hopefully you've received an email with them with the link as well. And we're looking at different events. First event will be early March in the UK. We're going to try and keep it in the Midlands, so it's nice and easy for northern users and southern users to get to. So basically, we're looking at that either maybe the 7th and the 8th, so a Thursday, Friday, 7th and 8th of March, or the 14th and 15th of March. The idea being that we'll have 2 days of training and workshops. The first day, and this is the same both for the UK one in March, the European event, which will be in Amsterdam in early May, either the 9th and 10th of May or the 16th and 17th of May. So that's the idea behind that. And then also the Monday and Tuesday of the 23rd, 24th of September at the Clarion Live Developers Conference. So there'll be 2 days of training and workshops. The idea being day one, we will cover application UI, and we won't necessarily do the basics because we can attend here on the Monday and we can cover basics. There's pointless people paying for training on things which they can get in advance of it and get for free. No, the idea for those particular sessions is to really show some examples of getting the applications working together. So here's an example. Let's just quickly open up a particular example which I put together as a prototype for a particular user. So it won't be a second, just trying to actually find it. Here we go. This is literally just an idea, but here we can see this is an application UI, and it's using, and this is, we will go into a lot more detail than this. This is just a basic, but this is the idea that we're thinking of, where we get to see, we can see we've got a task panel, but inside of here we've actually got command bars, and we're utilizing just a single bar area as the content of a task panel item, all seamless. So we're using different approaches like this for the application UI, and that's what the focus of day one will be. It will basically be how to bring not just task panels and shortcut bars and command bars together, not just that, but of course including those. We'll also then in our browse screens bring in the report control, bring in the date picker, talking to the command bar and hosting them inside of a command bar via a pop-up, that type of thing. So the idea is to, the end of day one, we come up with at least one practical working example application where we demonstrate all of the actual entities truly working together. Minimum amount of coding, but maximum impact for the end user. So that'll be day one. Day two will be dedicated to the Chillcat communications. So everything we do, like on here, like the QuickBooks and so on, but in a bit more detail, and basically covering all the ones plus some new ones. So we will get the application talking to the likes of Dropbox with the folders and the files and dragging things around, maybe Google Drive at the same time, the calendar events both in Google and in Microsoft, and then new things like the PayPal integration, eBay, things like that, and of course the accounting. So we're going to look at all those, get a good working example, but then also have a look a bit more detailed of how those actually, if you was to not use the task class and you needed to do this manually, how you would do it. So the idea is you've got an API, maybe it's a logistics company, maybe it's a government portal that you need to talk to, but you've got an API that is a published API. How would you go about it from scratch? And we'll take a look at that. We'll probably use something like EasyPost or something, but we'll take one where we can just get a test account to, but we'll actually do it using the raw base classes. So you get a good understanding of what the task classes do for you, but gives you the confidence to go and do it with other APIs that you might need to talk to going forward. So that'll be day two. So that's the idea behind the training. Hopefully it's of interest to people. It's kind of the idea behind it. Any questions or any feedback on that, please let us know. I would encourage you, if you get a chance, to complete the survey for us. Even if you're not interested, that's fine. All the information's perfectly valid. It's just so we can gauge interest in the actual events and check which ones are worth progressing and which ones aren't. So that's the idea behind them. And of course, all are welcome. We're going to keep our costings to a minimum. We have got some ideas of some costings. They are very reasonable. So, we will publish that as soon as we've got the final kind of numbers and so on of interest. But they will be very, very reasonable. So that shouldn't really be a problem. Okie dokie. Bill's got a couple of questions there. What have we got? Let's just open the mic up before we get going. Hi, Bill.
Well, that was the only place where you can put one in. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, Bill.
I'm sorry.
I think I've just caught you off guard there. Just seen a couple of questions.
I was in my office. Go ahead.
Yes. What were the questions?
The one was I was trying to locate. Remember, I think it was either 2 weeks or it might have been 3 weeks ago already when you did the webinar with it, and we went over how to do a ribbon bar.
Yes, yep. I think it was about 3 weeks ago.
I was trying to find where the video would be.
They should all be up on the YouTube channel. Let's just take a quick look.
I shouldn't. I must have been going the wrong place because I couldn't find it.
So we look at YouTube.
Okay.
And it'll be probably under December. So if you press December. Deleted. Not sure why that's deleted. Okay, but I forget which one it was, Bill. I'd have to have a look. It might be the 17th or the 31st. I need to. That's one of the tasks I've got to put Wendy to do and go through and just put some actual information on these. But yeah, I would have thought it would have been around one of those.
Oh, okay. Maybe I might have gone the wrong place. Okay. So you went to YouTube.
Yep. And then if you just go to YouTube and do a search for Noyantis,
Okay.
and you'll get various different meetings, but you should get playlists. So if we scroll down, yeah, go on to say Noyantis software, and you should have the playlists, and then they are playlists per month. So
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So playlist. Maybe I just didn't look in the right spot. Or it might have been. It was about a week ago when I looked. So
they got uploaded. There was a delay in uploading them, so they only got uploaded after last Monday. So probably last Tuesday morning they got uploaded. So that's probably
okay.
why.
I think it was last weekend when I looked, and I forgot to ask you or send you an email on it. So
Yeah, no,
okay.
there was on different machines. I'd done a couple on the laptop when I was when one of them was the one I was well, I weren't driving. Somebody else was driving, but we did one from the car and so on. So yeah, there was on different machines. So I had to bring them all together, convert them, and get them uploaded. But they're all there now.
Yeah, and my other question then was on the CIDC. You know, I already bought my CIDC tickets and stuff. And we're gonna Andy Morgan and myself are both coming. And but when I did that, it only showed the schedule for
Cape Soft.
Cape Soft.
Oh, then yes, that's going to be need to speak with John and Arnold because we only actually we got interest in doing the conference. I don't know if John's around or if he's on a someone's got his attention. We'll see if we'll see if John's around in a second. But basically, we were going to do the earlier training, be it the European one, the UK one, and the European one. And we was unsure whether we was going to do training at CIDC this time, mainly because in some respects I think we'd missed the chance and so on, and we weren't sure whether it was going to be required. Then we got emails in. Obviously, people wanted to go to the conference, and people wanted training, which is good, of course. So it's really gone from there. The idea being bounced around to then speaking to John and Arnold to see if there's the actual rooms available and the actual things for the recordings and so on and so forth. So it's only really come about the latter end of last week. So we have got some costings for the American one. We just need to speak to John and Arnold and get the actual offerings up there on the actual site. So I'll speak to John maybe after this today, or John and Arnold tomorrow, and then we'll get the site updated accordingly.
No, I guess what I meant was, is that going to change our price to attend?
It depends on what you're attending, I suppose. If you're attending
Well,
one or the other.
I signed up for Andy Morgan and myself for Monday through Friday.
Right. So that'll be the obviously you're on the Cape Soft one. So yeah, it wouldn't include the Noyantis one. So it would change.
It would not include the Noyantis one?
No. They I know in the past, I know you in not the last DevCon, the one before that, we did do it where it was one combined training event.
Yeah, because what I did was I sent Andy and I switched off. He went one day to yours and one day to the.
That's right, I remember.
Soft.
Yeah,
I switched the next day.
Yes, but unfortunately, we're not doing it that way around this time. Cape Soft are doing their own separate event, and we're doing our own separate event. Yeah, it's just the way it's worked out. There's no yeah, it's just the way it's worked out. There's no bad plan, but no ulterior motive or anything like that. It's just how it's actually transpired this time. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less.
No, I'm just looking at how to do it, because if we paid the money for the 2 day, I could let Andy go to the 2 days of
Capesoft.
Cape
NetTalk, yeah. Sorry, I had to think myself.
and then me come to 2 days of yours, and you know,
And
for the
combine your
same
knowledge afterwards, of course. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I will speak to. Obviously, I'd raise that with John/Arnold. We're going to get the things, the tickets, and make them the thing available ASAP. So I'll try and get it. Like I said, I'll speak to John and Arnold today, tomorrow, and get the site updated accordingly. From there, I'll mention your requirement, your position, and then I'll let you know what they say. They'll probably say get in touch with them, and they'll sort it that way for you.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, there's no sense in two of us sitting through two. You know, we're missing one class or missing the other one, and we could watch them later on video. But
yeah. So there's ways and means, of course. But yeah, I'll if John comes back in on this one, then we'll raise it. We'll raise it with him there, or you might just want to have a private chat with Arnold. But there's ways and means. You know, I really don't see there's any particular problem on that.
okay, that perfect. Okay, that was great. I then disregard what I put on my survey, because
I haven't checked yet.
I did the survey based on you not being at the CIDC having training. So
Right.
I thought that we should have maybe
Oh, you did say something about some recordings about doing them. Yes, I do remember it coming through. There's responses, especially as the emails have gone out this morning. There's a few responses coming through today. So yeah, we've just been monitoring them, but we're waiting till we've got quite a bunch to analyse them in one go.
Yeah, I had suggested having one where you do it as a webinar like we're having today, and do it as like maybe a full day webinar, charge for it or whatever, and then have a follow up at the CIDC. You know,
Well,
maybe
on all of these
whatever.
things, the recordings will be available so the people, because not everybody goes to the actual conferences, some do online only, and that's some of the interest we've already had, where people have said, yeah, they'd like it, but it's they want the online version access, so they can ask questions live, and then they've got the recordings to follow up afterwards. So yeah, we try and keep it as flexible as possible. And if we'd have planned in advance, we probably would have done a combined thing with Capesoft and so on. It's just the way it came around. There's, like I say, there's no bad feeling. There's no just bad planning. That's all on my part.
No problem. I won't eat up any more time. I appreciate it.
No problem. Okay. So we've got that. Right, there's a question on schedule IT. I'm going to demonstrate schedule IT actually in a second, but it's mainly from the loading point of view. So let's cover the color themes, because I know it's Michael, and I will just see if he's got a microphone open to him. Hi, Michael. Have you got a microphone?
Hello, Andy.
Hi.
How are you?
Yes, fine. Thank you. Yourself?
Yes, I'm fine. I'm interested for the schedule ID because one of project here is exactly what it's doing this.
Okay.
And I want to ask, is a demo or for sale or
well,
for what?
It's that particular element of it is just in development now. I'm going to show some of the, like I said, I'll show the actual the approach we've taken on this, both from a loading point of view, really to just demonstrate the report control loading. But as for the actual product itself, we can have a chat about that separately. That's no problem. Yep. We can chat about that, and about what it's going to do function wise and so on. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I know you had questions on the color themes, correct?
Yes, the core themes, and one more. In my project now, I have a schedule of doctors which
Yep.
have a schedule on a clinic, a particular schedule for each doctor in a week, and I mean the hours. For example, one doctor have 3 hours or 4 hours, and the user wants to only view these hours in the calendar for a specific doctor to make the appointments.
Right. Okay. I'll tell you what. We'll do the colours first. Then I'll open up the calendar example and we'll look at it for that scenario as well. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. So let's just get an example together for today. So for the themes. So it'll be a second. Okay. And one. Okay, so what we're going to cover here is the color themes, what's available via the template in the class, and then switching them at runtime. So the knowledge here, we're going to use the command bars because I think there's already some examples in this application, but the same knowledge, the same approach, and the same commands can be used for the entire suite. So they will work for the shortcut bar, they will work for the calendar, the task panel, the docking panes, report control, so on and so forth. Okay, so in this example, we'll just cover a couple of the basics. Here's our folder. And for this application, we are saying we're going to use, we'll just have a quick look. I'm going to use version 18.6. Okay, so the first thing we should do is from the CodeJock installation, we go to the ActiveX. If you go into the samples folder and styles, and you'll see there's the actual raw source of each of the themes. Okay, we're not bothered about those, so ignore those folders. What we want is just the DLLs. So you can see here these files. What you need to do is, for the later versions of CodeJock, this does make a difference. If you're using 18.6, make sure you've got the theme files from the 18.6 version. If you're using 18.2, make sure you copy them from 18.2, 16.4, 16.4, so on and so forth. So the golden rule is make sure that they match, because there are some differences in the internals of the actual DLLs. So for example, not to get confused, but we can see this is the actual raw style of the Office 2016 theme. Okay, so I bet there's in there, I haven't even looked, but I should imagine there are the icons so we can see all the different resources that it's going to use. There's the XAML, the markup language for it. So I've never actually opened one of these. So if we open that in XAML, right, really one side of the text pad, but basically we can see they're the raw source. We're not interested in them. It's not something that you'd probably ship you with your application. The only thing we're interested in is these files. So I'm just going to copy them in because I'm going to give the option to switch at runtime between various ones of these. So that's step one. Make sure you've got the matching theme files for the version that you're using, because the internals are slightly different. And of course, as CodeJock issue fixes, then it's important that you're using the fixed version. Okay. After that.
Okay, I've already do this.
Yep. Okay. So after that, we chose we're going to use Office 2016. That's fine. From here, then there are a number of themes. So we're going to use various different ones, and I'm going to go with Excel Colourful. Oh, wrong one, sorry. Excel Colourful.
Okay.
So I'm going to run that.
Oh, Andy,
Yep.
sorry, I use the RS file for Greek. Okay.
Oh, for the language.
Yes, for the language.
That's
No
okay.
problem.
But we can. Well,
Okay.
we'll set it in a second. But in fact, we will mention those. But we'll just cover the themes first. But it's the same. It's a very similar approach you'd use for the language as well.
Yes. Thank you.
So, oh crikey, that's going to keep mithering us today. But okay. So let's just avast do its job. Maybe we won't compile too many times on that. So we can see, if we open up, especially the ribbon, that's the better one. We can see it's Excel, colourful, Office 2016, and it's Excel. So it's a green, like Excel, and the highlighting, if you will, and probably the hyperlinks, if we've got some. There should be some. No? Oh, they're over there, sorry. So, yes, basically, these are all the settings which come from that particular theme. Now, the code generated for that, just go to our main application frame with Excel. Skip that a second. What has that generated? And we can see here those two lines. Now it's told, because this is the default one which we asked it to do, it's called the apply resource theme file. It's taking two parameters. The first is which DLL, so it's going to take the Office 2016 DLL, and then there's a number of equates, and this is basically the section within each DLL. So back to that folder a second where we saw this. Now we can see the Office 2016, and if you look here, you can see all these separate innies. Okay, that's because inside of the actual DLL are different sections. There's a 2016 Access Black, Access Colourful, Access Dark Grey. There's the Excel, which we just saw. There's Excel Black, Excel Colourful, Excel Dark Grey, Excel White. So there's a number of different sections within the actual raw DLL. So what we're saying in our code here is basically which section. So in our equates, and I'll just show you where the equates are. I'll publish an actual list of these, but if we was to look inside here, okay, here's the list of themes that are supported, which basically match what CodeJock ship. So we saw all those innies a second ago. You're not bothered about the innies. What we just want is a mechanism to get to that particular section of that theme file. So here we've got the Excel, and we've got Excel Grey Light, Excel Grey Dark. There should be Excel Colourful. Oh, sorry, that's 2013. We go down, Excel Office 2016, Excel Black, Excel Colourful, Excel Dark Grey, Excel White. All marries up to what CodeJock support and offer in their theme files. So we've done all the work for you. All you need to do is to say, we're going to apply a resource theme file. We're going to load it from that DLL, and we want that section, that element of the theme. So although you think it's just one and the same, it's not. That file, that Office 2016, if we look at just the 2016 sections here, and we can see there are 28 different themes, all within that just one DLL. So in 2013, I'm not sure how many there was in that. there was less. I knew there was definitely less. There's 22. 2010 only really had 3, and so on and so forth. So that's how CodeJock basically ship their themes. They are XAML markup language, but they compile them into a DLL, make it nice and easy to ship, nice and easy to load, and all we do is say, okay, we want to use that DLL and we want to use one section of the DLL. So back to our code, and that's what we're doing there. So we're telling it we want to load that DLL, that section within the DLL, and then last but not least is we call apply theme and we pass it that we want to use the and there's equates for these command bars theme Office 2016. Okay, so that gives you your default theme, and as we say, we run it and we can see here that's a command bar interface of that theme. This is a ribbon bar which does demonstrate it a little better. That's the ribbon bar interface of that theme, and the tabbed bar would be a bit of a hybrid after that as well. Same approach for all of the products, the calendar, the docking panes, property grid, so on and so forth. They are the same approach to be used all the time. If you wanted to switch at runtime, there is another setting which we can do. So on our application frame, we've got our global setup, of course, and we've said we want to use Office 2016 Excel by default. And you come across to the resources, and we're going to say on the main application frame, so this is the highest command bar in our chain of command bars in our application, we're going to say use the global extension setting for the theme and use the global extension setting for the language. Okay. Now, when it comes to a procedure coming off there, so let's say the different controls, that's the one we opened a minute ago. On here, got our command bar, of course, just as we've seen. Go across to our settings. In this one, I've set it to different. I've said inherit the settings from an existing control. Now, what that's doing there, just let me show you. We've loaded this and we said Excel 2016, colourful, and that's what we've got. The control itself, outside of Clarion, because of course the control's written in C and so on, it loads itself into memory, and it has its own global area. So it basically is its own, for want of a better term, global memory. It's loaded into memory, and the menu, our application frame has said use our template setting. So it sets Office 2016 green, Excel. Brilliant. This one says inherit it. So we've initialized the ActiveX control, but we haven't told it to load any theme. What we're going to do is say load the last one what was in memory, which means if we set it at the application frame to one particular setting, hey presto, this will then inherit it because it's the controls initialized in memory and it's already got a color theme set in memory. So if we was to change the one on the main application frame, so there's some options here, and I'll cover the code in a second for that, but I'll change this to say, let's use OneNote. Okay, OneNote dark gray. Now we're going to different, and the colors are different. Now it looks like OneNote, and now it's got the dark gray of OneNote. And if we was to change that again and say, let's use Word white. There you go, Word white. Go back into our example. And now we're in Word with the blue, as we'd expect, white. So what we're doing here is the main one on the application frame is got it's loaded up the control first. It's then set the color theme at the higher level, at the global level, to be Word white. And then when we go into our child windows, we're saying inherit it because we know it's on the application frame, so we've already got it loaded. We've already set a color theme, so now it will just automatically inherit from whatever's loaded into memory at that time. Does that make sense?
Okay, Andy, but I have command bars only in one main frame.
Okay, well, that's fine.
And no in other window.
Well, that's fine. That's fine.
Yes.
So
Okay.
you wouldn't need this on the child. On my screens, I do use them on the application frame, and I do use them on the browse.
And I have different themes in the calendar. Okay.
Okay. Now, here's an important thing. At that, if I was to, so I've loaded this into memory. I've got the command bars initialized. I've loaded a theme file, and of course, it's taking action of that. So I will. Let's switch to something more apparent. Office 2010 Blue. There you go. That's the type of kind of interface that we're used to seeing and so on. Okay. Now, that only affects the command bars. If you also use the calendar, you would have to do the same for the calendar, because the calendar's global area can't see the command bar's global area. They are two separate controls, so they shouldn't see each other at the end of the day, because you might have a scenario where you do like the command bars to look like one particular theme and style, but you want the calendar to use a different one because it just suits the application better. That's fine. You can do that.
Yes.
Okay. So what I would recommend for the application frame, use a global setting, global template. For anything, and this is if you've got the control, the command bar, the shortcut bar, the task panel, if you've got those on your application frame, use a global setting. And then if you're using them also on the child procedures, like the browse screens or the update forms, then I would use inherit, which means if you were to then change it at the highest level, be it the application frame, the next time that window is opened, it would automatically take on the new theme setting. So I would use global at the application frame, inherit on the child window. So that's the idea behind the approach there. If, of course, you're not using the controls on the application frame, then you would have to use the global setting at the child level, because there's nowhere to inherit it from. You've not added it to the application frame, so every one of the children are like the highest level of the chain, if you will. So you would have to use global setting that way, because there's nothing to inherit from. So now I know you don't use it, but it's just for the point of for the point of the recording and to help others. Then that's what I would use for that particular scenario. So we've covered the global and the children. Now we come to, for this particular example, we do offer some options, and there's one. I don't think we didn't put them all on there because there was lots. So what we actually did is just let me just run this again. We can see here that under this theme setting, there's lots and lots, and you've just seen all the equates for all of these. So we just embedded some code to say, load it from, add those options. So let's just quickly cover that. There probably will be, let's just close that down and see if we can find it under the create controls, is it? No, not that one. Must have done it somewhere. Sorry, I'm on the wrong thing, that's why. Right. Yeah. And it was in the thing. Okay, so basically, just for demonstration purposes, I created a little queue. I give it what DLL is the theme going to come from, what section within the DLL is it. So you can see here I've got all the equates, the aqua, black, the 2007 aqua, black, so on and so forth. We give it some nice wording, but that's purely, from an end user point of view to make it look a bit nicer. So I build up a queue of all of them, and then I would have thought probably in the create controls, which is what I would have expected, I loop through the queue and I just go and add them. So when you see them at runtime, it's just added all these options to the pop-up. Okay, so that's how we're getting the things in. So I've got a queue, I'm just looping through that queue, add the control to, and I've already got a pop-up called theme. I give it called theme and I just give it the actual the counter number, so it's a unique ID, and I give it the wording. And we can see here it's a theme, it's checked false by default and so on. If it happens to be our default theme, then I check it just to give the effect. If we scroll down, just to give it this this effect. Now when I click one of these, so let's say Office 2013 white, I click that, and of course that theme has occurred, has changed. If I was to take a look now under the new selection, I know what, remembering that I added it with a theme underscore and then I padded out just a number to 3 digits. So I have a look. Does it start with theme underscore? Yes, it does. Brilliant. Then I can go and get what that number is. That'll give me my queue position. I then call our apply resource theme file, which you saw earlier. The file name out of our queue, and I've done the get on the queue, by the way, of course. The file name out of the queue and the style out of the queue, which is the equate. Call that. I apply the theme, which is the same as that one, and I just go and change the caption to make it, and that's just so it ties in there. So this, the caption there, Office 2013. If I go to Access Black, then the caption is changed to Access Black. The theme's been loaded. If we go into here, we can see that's changed accordingly. So that's really it. The main things you want to do, you can present the options to the user in many different ways. Maybe you don't want to offer them all of those options because there are quite a lot. So you don't have to offer them all of them at once. You might just offer them a subset. In one of the applications I do for a particular client, I know that they don't. They only offer a very small subset because they think that that particular list to the end user is too much. So they just offer, I think they offer like I think they just offer an Office 2013 Access, Excel, OneNote, and they just take the defaults, not the dark grades, they just take the defaults. So it's entirely up to you what you want to offer your end user. And the end result is you calculate what it is you want via whatever mechanism you offer in your software, and then that's the main things you want to offer there, you want to call. When you've got it, you want to be able to say, I need that DLL with that section, just like we saw the generated code to start with, and you apply the theme as well. Doing that combination will then repaint and change this the global area that has been loaded into the control. So that's why you're better off doing the theme color changes at the highest point in the chain. So if you've got them on the application frame, which normally you would have, that's where you would want your color section to take effect. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, but if I want, and in the previous versions, I have this ability to save the theme in any file.
Yep.
So if a user re-entering the program, have the saved theme that he chooses.
Well, okay. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so what we'll do is I'll save them in ini, just like you've got. Okay, so I will put ini. Crikey, I don't know. Theme.
Yes.
And we'll say file. And we want the file name. So I've got that there, coming out of our queue. You might hard code yours, and however you are presenting the options to the user. But I'm going to store under the section theme. I'm going to have an entry called file, and that's going to be the file name. And it can be long path and I'll just have it as settings.ini. Oh, theme.ini. As good as any. So I'm going to put that. I'm also going to say the section. I'll call it style actually instead. There you go. The style, and I'm going to store that just like we've got there. That really should be all we need. And I tell you what, we'll actually store the wording, so when we restore it, it actually looks nicer. So let's just see that in action first. Okie dokie, so I'm going to choose, we're going to store it as access white. Okay, so let's have a quick look in our folder now. Here's our folder. And in the, I've got theme.ini, and sure enough, we have file equals, and then name of our DLL, style equals, and that happens to be, we're not storing the equate, we're storing the value. It's kind of irrelevant. Yeah. We just need to know what it is, and the name. So we've got our setting. Now, obviously, it's fine setting it. What we want to do is get it to take notice of that. So the place where it would, remember our generated code, would be init template settings, because we're going to get them from the template. So I would put it in here. I'd put it late on, so I'd probably put it towards the end. Override theme, so something along the lines of do you know, come on there. No, I'll do it a different way. It's okay. If that is not equal to, just in case first time, so if we've got a theme that we need, then I'm going to pinch out our other code. So on those commands, as I say, we'll do that quite late on. So I'm going to get that file. I'm going to get that style. That needs to go on the apply theme as well. So, I mean, I could have put them into local variables. So I'm just doing the get in, and in here I'm going to set that to, and it wants to be that wording. So we'll tidy this up in a second. So, a bit of a tidy up. In fact, just make it a bit more easier. So you can see we're going to go and get some information. So basically, that takes two parameters, the DLL and the style. So we're going to get it from the file setting, and we're going to get the style from there as well. We're going to call the apply theme with the style, and we're going to set the caption of the theme option to whatever we've just gone and loaded. So we're expecting it, even though we know we've got Excel 2016 as our default. Oh, let's just take a look at that where it's done. So you can see there's our generated code, 2016 Excel, and then we've got our embed here saying if the user's saved it in an init or saved it in wherever you have it in your system, then we're going to override it and we're going to go and do our own code. Let's see that in action. And hopefully it will come up and say access white instead of Excel colourful. I'm in the process of switching machines, so I've moved some particular areas for the webinar storage and so on, hence why we're seeing a VAS keep kicking in, so apologies for that.
Okay.
So it's loaded up, and we can see it says Office 2016 Access White. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, that's access. There's our access colour. There's our red there. We'll close that. I'm going to choose something completely different. I'm going to go with Visual Studio. Oh, okay, Windows Blue. Yeah, okay. Windows 7 Blue, and hopefully it's Windows 7 Blue. So there is your saving and restoring via, and I'm doing it in it, but you could do it however you wanted to. You might want to save them on in some systems I've done, I have those saved on a user profile. So when the first user logs in, it prompts them for their login ID and their password. And then I store that information on their user profile so that when they log in, it's on their particular record what they have, and that it's loaded from there. But that's really down to your own application design of what you want to load from where.
Okay, thank you. The last question.
Mm-hmm.
Can I can't use Q? Is there another way for the Q? Because in previous versions, I have the apply theme settings in a case.
Oh, yes. I mean, I in an earlier version of the example application, I had that as just some hard-coded options and a case statement. But with the later changes, and CodeJock started issuing a lot of different theme settings, and they issued them in the past, and we never really supported them, and now we do. So you can see. Well, it's actually, you can't see off there. It's actually easier to go and show you back on that equate. So let's just bring that equate back in. Sorry, just let me close that in. Where are we? There's the equates. So you can see there's quite a lot. There are 64. So that's one big case statement. So that's why I created them as a queue to make it easier going forward, because next time CodeJock release something, they're going to be releasing even more. So that the hand-coded case statement was forever going to be growing and growing and growing. So I just thought I'd switch the example to use a queue to make it easier for myself, creating new examples. But how you want to store them, offer them to the user is completely up to yourself. As I say, in one of my applications, which I work on someone's system, they don't want to offer the full range of all the options. They only want to offer a small subset. That's entirely up to yourself. It's just a matter of coming up with the options you want to offer to the user, and then you can do them in a big case statement if you wanted to. You can put them into a queue if you want to. There's a few options open to you, really, of what you want.
Okay,
really comes down to your own application design, to be honest. But I'm happy to give you ideas, but it really does come down to your own requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we said the calendar. So if I open up the calendar application,
Hey, Andy, this
Yeah.
is Bill Rollins.
Yeah.
Back on what you were just doing, is it not possible to change when you change the theme to make the theme on the main menu change as well?
It would. It really depends on which theme you choose, to be honest. Like some of those we chose there, our interface, where is it? Oh, it's there, still open. Our interface here is the command bar, which is fine. In fact, I suppose, yeah, that should have really painted. Is that the paint? Is that the command bar black?
Yeah, nothing changed on the main menu. It did only on your sub windows.
No, well, it's very. You see, here's the thing. Just one second. Oh, right, yeah, because it should have come up like so. Okay, that looks like it's missing a repaint then. Yeah, all right, just one second. That's fair. That's a fair point because it does actually. Just let me quickly.
Because that way, if the customer's trying to make changes, they want to see it right in front of them when they're doing that. I'm thinking versus having to open another window.
Just trying to get say that one. No, it's not actually. Yeah, okay. So let me just under the new selection. Do that redraw. Let me just try that. Might be that I'm missing a line off the actual example app there. So let's just try that. Oh, I'm going to have to. Let me just move this over here. It's going to carry on bugging me. Okay. Yeah, who's missing a redraw? Oh, mind you, that's still not. 2010 silver, 2010 blue. Yeah, command bar would then come up blue. Make a good point there, Bill. NYS command bar. Won't be a second. And let's just check the command bar now. I haven't got. That's got its own. Just trying to find a particular setting. See. That's a line I've just added, but I'm just wondering whether that should have already taken effect via the template. I think that's a line missing in the template. Sorry, in the class. But I'll just show you what we've just done there. I will check that, but in the meantime, you wouldn't necessarily need that redraw. We're making sure that we're going to the theme, and we are loading. It's telling it internally that it's a resource, because basically, resource means it's an external file. So you've got some built-in ones, like the calendar has Office 2000 and Office 2003 and so on. And historically, CodeJock used to keep the themes compiled into the DLL, into the actual ActiveX itself. And then starting at 2007, they started allowing the resources to be external. 2010 expanded on that. 13, 16, the Visual Studio, so on. All of those became separate XAML markup files. Internally, they still refer to them as resources, but we have our own equates where we can determine what it is you're loading. So if you say it's the Office 2016 Excel, it knows that it wants to be one particular section within the Excel theme file, but it should be setting it internally to a resource. And I'm just wondering whether that's, when we're switching, isn't taking effect. So you can see there that I'm switching it back to a resource afterwards. We'll got rid of the redraw because I just don't think that's needed. So let's just go back to OneNote and 2010 black. So yeah, so short term, I would have that line. So Michael, you would need that line as well. Just like quickly show it you. That line as well. So you put in it, which we had before, and we'll just quickly do our where's our init. There we are. Override the theme. So we're going to do it there as well, which means when we load, we should get our theme immediately. There you go. And we will do back to our, not Excel, because we've got that as our default. So I'm going to go access colourful. And they are dots. I don't know if you can see them. They're dots instead of full. We reload. And that's right. And if I was to go blue, yeah. So yeah, I've put that in for now. I will check. At least that's part of the common class, which means I'll do a fix to the common class and it will change all the products automatically. So I will take a look at that. I think it's just taking parts of that from the logic point of view, so I know which section to get to, but then I'm not setting it back to resource afterwards, which I need to. So yeah, but for now, just add that command and you'll be good to go. Well spotted, Bill. Thank you very much. So we were going to quickly touch on the calendar. So let me just grab an example for the calendar. Where's our that'll do. Let's give you the calendar example. Okay. So your question is related to multi schedules, correct? Multiple staff members. Is that correct, Michael?
Yes, multiple for each staff. Huh?
Okay, so let's say we've got one for example there. Oh. $18.3, so 18.6. Copy in the styles, which is what we just mentioned before. Okay, okay. Okie dokie. Okay, so we've got some stuff here. Yep. And we can, this is only a simple example, but you can turn stuff on and you can turn them off again, that kind of thing. Okay, so we've got multiple staff, which means ultimately you have multiple schedules, one schedule per staff member.
Yes.
Okay. So your question is times?
It's staff, each of these, one of these and all, has a particular days and times that can have an appointment.
Okay, so say for example, Billy G. Okay, we'll choose 2 days. No, me, Andy Wilton. Okay, so on Monday I work the full 9 to 5:30, but on a Tuesday I don't. I only work 10 till 4. Correct?
Yeah.
So
Correct.
right. So okay, you can't hide you can't hide this just 10 o'clock on the Monday there, because it's needed for the other views. So you can't hide the 9 o'clock. Sorry, if I was there 10 till 4, all I can do there is to really paint this area to like a non-working colour. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so
I don't want to hide anything.
no.
I want only the user can make an appointment only for these hours or days.
Okay, so there's a couple of things. The schedule IT is going to have that functionality in it, so it's going to do exactly what you're after there. But just let me show you anyway. I'm going to achieve it by this colouring. So let's say staff member 3 doesn't work 9 o'clock. They don't start until 10 o'clock. So I would colour it and say, okay, 9 until 10 every day. Wants to be that colour as well. And they only work till 4 o'clock. So I would say, okay, well, 1600 to 2359 wants to be that as well. So now as I look at their day, in fact, it would be nicer if I had that. So you really get to, okay, so we can see they don't work there, they do work there, and maybe they take a lunch off. So 12:30 to 13:15, 45 minutes for their lunch. They also don't work there either. So this is how we've achieved it in our other systems, that we have the non-working time painted in a colour, and then their particular rota, their work pattern, also they have that. They don't work lunch and they don't work there. So we accomplish it by that, but of course that doesn't stop the user from still clicking there and doing something. So
Okay.
what we did there, we actually did a lot more. We would build, do you know, that schedule it, we'll have that, and I'll be able to demonstrate that hopefully next week for you, because it's going in this week. We've already done this in a much bigger system, but I unfortunately I can't demonstrate that. But we've already done this, and the way that worked was it was all to do with working patterns. So at the highest level, you had when was the business open? The business was open 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. 5 days a week. So we wouldn't show anything before 7 a.m. and she wouldn't show anything after 7 p.m. because the business wasn't open. So we would close those times off, and you can do that in the template. You set your working hours to 7 a.m., 7 p.m., which days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you say, don't show times outside of that, and it would shrink and only show you those times. So that was very good from the outer limits. That 7 a.m., 7 p.m., don't show anything before and after. That's step one. Step two, you would then have each person's working rota, working days, and we allowed them to have basically like a multi-part rota. So you could say they work on a 3-week pattern. The first 2 weeks they work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 9 till 5, Thursday, Friday, 10 till 6, and then the week after they rotate it. Monday, Tuesday they work 10 till 6, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday they work 9 till 5. So we would let them do this setup against their staff members so that the rotas work like the people work, and we would apply that to the calendar using the colouring sections like you've just seen there. But we would load them, first off, we would load them into a queue, which meant as you add them to the calendar, we would load the colorings just like we've done there, but instead of being fixed values like we've just done there, we would add them from a queue, which meant if the person then double clicked on a date and time, we could quickly check to see, does that date and time fall into one of the entries in the queue, which is non-working time? And if it is, we can put a message up saying, this person doesn't work there, you can't book an appointment, and block it, cancel the insert, and that would stop them from booking time into an area where they're not allowed to book time.
Yes, I understand. Also, the user wants to entry a program of a month for each doctor. So we must have in a staff table a program for each week, for a month.
Sorry, just to explain a little more. A program? Do you mean like a rota, a schedule, or I don't quite follow.
A schedule for each staff for a month. From with the hours that are working.
They work. Oh, that's what I was saying before. Yes, in this system, in the other system I did, that's what you would have. You would say, okay, for the first week of the month they work these type of hours, and the next week of the month they work these hours, and then the third week they work these hours, and so on. And we would just have that within a setup, if you will, for that particular staff member, and then when we load the calendar, we would load that setup into a queue, paint these colours from a queue, and then when they double click in an area, the first thing we would do is check, is this in a restricted time, and if it is, stop it. So e.g. that would check. If it is, put the message up and just return, so they can't do the insert. And if it isn't, allow them to go through. We also went, and again, the schedule IT is good to, we'll demonstrate this for you, but it will be next week before I can demonstrate. But we also, it might be, which we had in our system, certain parts of the day were restricted to certain types of activity. So for a dental system, they would want the first half an hour of the day from the 9 o'clock to be painted like this here, to be painted in a certain colour, which meant, although it's bookable time, try and only book it for emergency walk-ins. People who've had toothache and tooth problems overnight, so they're gonna phone up and say, "I need to see the dentist now. I've got a problem," that kind of thing. So somebody not knowing, a brand new member of staff, would be able to look at the calendar, know they haven't got an appointment, but they know just by the colourings to say, this indicates that it's really a restricted area for emergencies, that type of thing. So the colourings can come in really, really handy, and you can use them for any number of things. So for lunch breaks, for different types of activity that you want to book an appointment for. So yes, basically that's. I will demonstrate that. The Schedule IT is going to have that, and I'll demonstrate that next week for you with that exact functionality in what you're after.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. Cool. Very good. Okay, well, we're nearly up to time. What I will quickly do is just show you. There's no other question, is there? No, there's not. That's good. One quick question then is, it's something I'm just working on. So let's just run it. What's the best way? Okay, let's take this. Here's Schedule It. We've got a staff members. Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to recompile. That's got the terrible icons on it. Yeah, actually, I will do all. Sorry, won't be a second. So the idea behind this is it's going to be for scheduling different staff members' work, appointments, so on and so forth. You can set up different members of different types of procedures that you want, or different types of bookable activity for different times of the day, and so on and so forth. That exactly the type of thing what you've just said for a doctor. That type of thing. So it won't be a second. So I'll just quickly give some background. Ignore that because I've just done that literally before the webinar started today. So this is using Microsoft SQL database. It's using the report control. When we run it, I'll quickly show you what it's got, and then give you the approach what we've used for the browsers and for the help and so on and so forth. So let's quickly wait until it's done. We're on dictionary, so just a couple more. Sorry about this, won't be a second. Obviously, you can see it's a multi-DLL. Okay, so that's just the logo. It's actually going to be the dashboard area to tell you about different things. What we're using here, we're using a command bar across the top for basic navigation.
Okay.
We're using a task panel down the left, but the task panel is hosted in a docking pane. so we can fold it back, fold it out. I've got a save and restore size issue, but that's my problem. We've got some setup, so we can say different types of appointments and cities, states, usual things. And if we go to one of our browsers, we've got a report control, and there should be, we haven't got any fields, but there's a field picker on there, and we can enable the search value should we need to, all the usual things. The other thing we've given it is some help. So if we press a help, we can actually demonstrate some live help in HTML format on the actual screen. And we've done it on our forms. So for example, on here, we've got some updating a staff member, and we've got some help there in HTML format. Okay, so nothing exciting there. Looks pretty, pleasant and so on. What the approach we're taking is I wanted a very fast mechanism so that we can come up with loads of different screens in a fast manner. So maintaining the titles, exactly the same. Ignore the title ID, by the way. That will be disappear. You won't see the IDs. So we've got our titles. We could have locations, similar type things. How we've done this is library DLL is basically just it's nothing more than a helper application, a lib. So first thing we've got is our SQL loading of the tables. So we've already got all our connection strings taken care of for us and so on and so forth. So I can see here I've got some equates and I have a global queue of SQL tables. So let's just go with staff, which we saw before. So I've got a unique field. It's the table ID is an equate, table ID staff, states is states, titles is titles, so on. The unique field, the unique column within the staff table is called staff ID. And our select statement is actually here. So we're actually doing all of our SQL selects basically in a queue. So we're building up our SQL commands in a queue. The same can be said for our help. So now this at the moment is just very brief, but these should be coming from a table. So this will be a TPS table, which we can just ship, which means we can ship updated help in different languages all automatically. So again, we've got an ID, which is just an equate, and then we've got our actual HTML help. So they'll be loaded from a TPS. So we've got a global queue of our SQL commands, and we've got a global queue of our help content. Now, when we come to our browse, if we go to our staff, which you saw before, I've got our browse staff. We've got on the screen our report control, and we've got our help viewer, which is a HTML viewer. If we go to the actions of here, rather than hard code anything, well, there has to be some hard code to do with what table it's related to. But when we come to our data source, we want to get our unique column, and I've just given it a lib function of lib SQL get unique column, and I pass it the equate of what table it is that we are currently wanting the unique column for. The same with a select statement. So if we go across to our select, I can say call the lib function, get the select statement for a particular table ID, which means when I want to go and copy this, create a new browse, and maybe it's not staff, it might be, you might have one called doctors, which you had a minute ago. Probably a bad example because you've already got staff, but you get the idea. It's another browse. Then we could quickly copy this, and all we've got to do is come in and change that equate to say, now get me a select statement for the equate of and whatever the table is that we are working with, and get me the unique field of the table that we are working with. So we just use the equates of those tables. The same for the help. So we come to our help here, our HTML help viewer, and we've got our initial content is using an expression. That's a new update. I'm not actually sure that's been released actually, but we said it's an expression, and the content is it's a lib function out of our DLL. HTML get help, and we pass it an equate of what browse window we're on. So it could be an update form. We just have different equates set up. Hey presto, that means copying these is really, really simple. Does that make sense? Or have I just really confused everybody? Everyone's quiet. I'll leave you to ponder that. So it's, now I could have quite easily in here put the actual raw select statement. Go under here, go to my select. Oh, sorry, under here. Won't be a second. Sorry, go across to this, go to our select, and I could have actually put the raw select statement in here, or I could have put it in embedded code, which was fine. But it does mean if I'm going to have some lookup screens. So got my browse, but I'm also going to have a quick lookup screen for selecting staff members and selecting locations. Well, I can now use that same select statement in those as well in one central place, which means if I ever wanted to change the look and feel of the actual browsers, I can ship them in a TPS, have the loader load them out of the TPS into memory, into the global queue, and I've changed the look and feel of the application just by changing the content of the actual records. Not changing the program, not recompiling the program. So I get to change the actual look and feel of my browsers and my my browsers and my select screens and so on, just by changing the actual raw SQL select statements, which can be stored externally from the actual procedures themselves. And Bill's just asking, Bill, your mic is still open, or I think it's still open if you were. Well, it should be open. I think you've muted yourself. But yes, Bill's just asking, could this be done with several views? And yes, that's exactly what it could be done. Because that select statement, of course, you might be selecting data from a stored procedure. It might be a SQL view, because in reality, some of these will be. Say, for example, let me just run this again. Oh, actually, the option's not there, but it's going to be these working rotors, which I just mentioned before, and which you said, Michael, about in the month they work 1 week, then they do different the next week, and so on. So under the staff, you're going to have basically their schedule, their work schedule, and we're going to have basically. That will be a SQL view. It will have in the joined in tables and so on and so forth, and it will automatically be grouped to say, okay, I want them grouped week by week by week, so you can see which hours, which days and which hours they work. But it'll all be controlled via the SQL, and again, that will be a separate command loaded into memory in a queue. And then I've just got some very simple lib routines to say, pass me an ID, and I'll return you what the SQL command is you need for the select statement, or what the help content is. So for this, for the update, that is calling the same lib routine for the HTML help, but it's just giving it a different window equate. So that's giving it an equate of the update staff member window. That is calling the exact same routine, but it's giving it the equate of the browse staff member. So now we've got all our help in one place. Same approach with the SQL selects. So yes, basically the idea is we're trying to break away the actual raw accessing of the data and so on, to make it so we can ship them in TPS table or however we want to ship it with the application, and we can actually change the look and feel of this runtime. And none of this, of course, is coming via the Clarion Dictionary, because it's all using the data bind. So it's straight onto the ADO source, the SQL source. So,
Andy,
yes.
it's of stuff has a known schedule.
The what, sorry?
It's stuff in this screen.
Yep.
This record has a different schedule inside the stuff.
Yep. There's going to be extra options here for their working schedule.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's where you will list, week 1, you work these hours, week 2, you work these hours, week 3, you work these hours, week 3, 4, you work these hours, back to week 1, then 2, 3 and 4, back to week 1, 2, 3 and 4, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Okay, well, we are just over time, and I think we're out of questions. So hopefully you found that interesting. And this is just I'm not saying it's the way forward and so on. It's just giving different approach to application design. That's all. So okay, right. I think we're at time. So until next week, I shall bid you all good day. Okay.
Hey, Andy.
Oh, yes.
Give me a Skype call when you're done here.
Yes, of course. Yes. I'll give you a call in a few minutes.
Right. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks to everybody. Speak to you soon. See you next week. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.